Let me ask you a question. Do you know the number one skill set it takes to become a multimillionaire or just a millionaire in general? Well, as the great one, Warren Buffett, the multi-billionaire said, and you can find it anywhere on Google, internet, YouTube videos, you name it, you Google Warren Buffett, number one investment. And what does he always say? The number one investment he ever made in himself to become a multi-billionaire was getting over his fear of public speaking. Now, why did he say that? Because he knew coming out of college with the fear of public speaking, if he didn't get over that fear and get comfortable speaking, he would never become the leader he wanted to be and start the company that he wanted to start and become a billionaire. Without it, he always says he might be still working at McDonald's or basically a low-paying job, right? If he didn't get over that skill set. So how did I become a millionaire? Well, I followed his words and I got over my fear of public speaking and it launched me into a millionaire. I'm not saying to brag. I'm just saying that without getting over the fear of public speaking, you're never going to get to where you want to be. So why are you here today? Well, maybe you don't want to be a millionaire, but you do want to have financial stability, right? We all want financial stability, and it really takes getting over your fear of public speaking to reach those goals. And today we're going to go over the numbers. We're going to hit the data. I'm going to back it up with a bunch of numbers, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. But I just wanted to tell you right now, you're in the right place if you have a fear or phobia of public speaking and you want to get to that place, right? So let's cut over to a PowerPoint right now. Hey, Bob here. If this video is hitting home, don't just stop here. Go take my free public speaking fear quiz to get your personal fear score and instantly watch my 15-minute workshop. You'll learn why traditional tips and tricks fail and how I've helped over 700 coaching clients and well over 1,500 online course professionals speak fearlessly in just 21 days with a 99.2 success rate. There's no fluff, no sales pitch, just the fix. So just click the link below in the description to get started. Thank you so much. So from fear to financial freedom, how overcoming public speaking phobia unlocks 7-figure success, how I did it and how you can too. Let's jump right in. So the cost of staying silent. I know the cost because I had the fear and phobia of public speaking for over 18 years. And I know that feeling. I know the anxiety. I know how it feels to dread public speaking, be terrified of it, and then stay and basically avoid it at all costs, right? We avoid it at all costs. But what does that do when you shrink your world down, right? Well, you decline promotions. Why? Because you know if you take that promotion, there's gonna be public speaking with it. Once you start getting up the ranks, once you hit like director role, senior management, director or vice president, there's a lot of public speaking. So what do? You stay away from those things knowing that. So that's a lot of missed opportunities. And you're always living in anxiety of just being in meetings or what they call out on you or what somebody asks you to present something, even at a lower level, right? So even at low levels, you still have to present somewhat, but you just know that as you go up the ranks, there's a lot more speaking. So you try to keep yourself small. I've worked with a lot of executives also that are directors, that are VPs, senior vice presidents, executive vice presidents. You'd be surprised how many of my clients are senior vice presidents and over, all the way up to C level. Now what happens to them? Well, they got to where they are and they've kind of been hiding it, but now they have to speak more. And now they constantly live in anxiety and fear. They don't sleep well. When they're on trips, they're taking anxiety pills, they're taking all this medication and stuff like that, right? Just to take the edge off, because medications don't get rid of the phobia, because the phobia is a psychological. The medications just kind of help take the edge off all that anxiousness and adrenaline, but they don't help. So you still live in a really unhealthy relationship with public speaking, and that's no way to live. So now you have imposter syndrome, right? And all those things that can happen at that level. And what happens? Whether you're at a lower level or you're at an executive level, well, that's financial crisis if you lose your job, right? Now, financial crisis if you don't get up because you're always living small and over years and years and years, you kind of stay small. You stay in that position and that's going to take a toll on your family and your financials. So your relationships, it's nice if you're 24, 25, 30 and you're a manager, wonderful. But what happens when you're 45? 15 years later and you're still a manager and you're watching all your friends go up the ladder, right? You're watching all your friends and all your family members and they're passing you by. People coming into the company that work for you are now your boss or your boss's boss and they're just going up the level. This is what happens when you get over the fear of public speaking. It's no joke. I've seen it happen. I lived it for so many years. I watch this, I live this, it's no way to live. So it will crush families in, schools, vacations, housing, cars, all that stuff really all gets tied into your financial situation. And if you don't get over your fear and phobia of public speaking, you just can't get up those ranks. Sorry, but honestly, you just have to have it. It's a skill set that's required as a director or above. Without it, you're going to be stuck, okay? So let's move on, and I'm going to go about how we can get over that. So the breakthrough, okay, let's talk about this, because right now, if I'm guessing right, you probably tried a lot of things. You probably tried many things, or basically getting ready to start public speaking coaches and stuff like that. But even if you tried everything, nobody's told you the truth. Even if you read all the blogs and books, you took the speaking seminars, or you're about to, you've done all this, practice your content, know your stuff, keep practicing. But even though you did all those things and maybe even took medications, the dread the days before a presentation is real. The panic wave that hits, that whoosh feeling that comes over you when you're in meetings is real. And you avoid the spotlight at all costs, even when your career depends on it. Let me just talk about this for a second, because if you're here, you're stuck here. And I can tell you that all those things do not work for a phobia of public speaking. Public speaking coaches, public speaking seminars, executive speaking seminars, they cannot help you get over the fear and phobia of public speaking. Why? It's a fight or flight response. Right now, your brain is hardwired to think that public speaking is no different than a grizzly bear, a fire, a bobcat, or somebody attacking you. It literally thinks that public speaking is a physical danger or threat. So we need to undo that. Well, public speaking coaches, they are not the way to get over a phobia. The only thing that does work are psychologists. Psychiatrists prescribe medications. Medications do not work for phobia. Can they take the edge off some anxiety, some adrenaline? A little bit. But you're still living with the dread. You're still not sleeping at night. You're still dreading the upcoming presentation. Medications can't get rid of that. That's a psychological. Medications do not hit psychological. They hit physiological, okay? At least the medications that you take for public speaking, they don't work, okay? So medications don't work for this. Public speaking coaches don't work for it. Psychologists can, but the problem with psychologists is they take literally, on average, 6 months to 2 years. That's going to cost about $10,000 and $20,000. And most psychologists, in case you didn't know, they don't take health insurance anymore. They stopped years ago. You might find some that do, but most do not. And they want to see you every week or every other week. I mean, you got to drive to a brick and mortar or meet with somebody like this on a video camera, but most are still brick and mortar because they pay those leases. So now you got to drive out, miss work, miss time away from home. You might have to even use your PTO once you use up all your sick time and all that time for going to doctor's appointments every other week for over months and months and months, up to 2 years, and maybe you get over it. Well, what if I told you you can do this in literally as fast as 21 days to 4 weeks, maybe 5, only because you're busy, right? So there is a way to get over it, and we'll go over that fast. So let's talk about the cumulative income over 15 years average, fear versus fearless, okay? This is a cool graph, and we're going to go over some numbers in the next slide. But look at this graph. See those 2 dotted lines on the bottom there? Well, if you look at these 2 lines, basically that's if you don't get over your fear of public speaking. That's where you stay. You stay flatline because you're stuck in those positions. You're not going up the ladder, what you want to do. Once you become a director, that's the yellow line. Look at that. Now, to the left, you'll see that's millions over 15 years cumulative. This includes, by the way, merit increases factored in, your typical merit increases. These are major cities, all major cities with merit increases and typical bonuses for those levels, okay? So we just basically put all the math in and said, what's your typical merit increase? What's a typical bonus at these different levels for IC, managers, directors, VPs, senior VPs, EVPs, and CEOs, right? And we factor them in. And this is just average. There's obviously, the scale is huge, but we want to take the average. Over 15 years, all accumulated, as a manager, you made about $1 million. Well, it may sound like a lot. It's not, okay? As a manager, starting manager, you didn't make much more. Really, you didn't make much more. But look what happens when you become a director. Yellow line. You've now made about almost $3 million. Now we're talking, right? Now we're talking about a little bit more financial freedom, nicer cars, maybe a nicer house, nicer vacations, right? A little bit more in your max out your 401k and stuff like that. And now look what happens when you start hitting vice president, right? Senior vice president, executive vice president, CEOs. Now you're looking even just at what? At senior vice president, you're looking at $8 million. At vice president, you are looking at $6 million accumulated over that time. Right now we're talking big numbers, and it doesn't take a lot. You don't need a lot. If you're a SME, a subject matter expert, and you're a smart person, you can become a VP, no problem. You're just a leader. And what does it take to be a leader? Public speaking, being a leader, being able to speak, getting up, presenting. That's all. A VP is just somebody who leads other teams. It's not a huge skill set. It's just a management set. It's a skill set that requires public speaking, being able to present, being able to speak on behalf of your organization. That's the real key. Public speaking is really everything. So you do that, you get over your fear, look what's going to happen to your life. And I know, because once I got over my fear, I shut up the ranks. And here I am, 56, semi-retired for 3 years, doing this for a living. I help now people get over their fear and phobia of public speaking. Is it a great business? Yes. But most people are not going to do this, right? Most people are going to stay in the corporate world. And if you want to become a millionaire in the corporate world and not stay stuck, you got to get over your fear and phobia of public speaking. So I hope this is all making sense. Let's go over dollar signs now. So just to go back to that graph, this is the numbers 15 years. So if you take those 15 years with the merit increases over time, at the end, what's the average you're making per year? Not from the beginning and not the end, but the average over those 15 years. Well, as an individual contributor, you're making $95,000 a year, okay? Not bad, but if you're in a city, that ain't gonna cut it. That's barely gonna cover rent, right? Now, manager, $121,000 a year. Like I said, not that much more over all that time, from just being a person in a cubicle to a manager of the people over those cubicles. But look what happens when you become a director. $269,000 per year. VP, you're averaging $400,000 a year. This is with the merit increases and the bonuses all included, right? Now, this is gross also. Senior Vice President, 532. EVP, 733. CEO, 1.17 a year. Now, CEOs, EVPs, they can go way up above it. It just depends on the company. But this is the average company. These are just taking all the companies out there and what is the average. Now, why did I say this is gross? Why is that so important? Well, if you're an individual contributor or manager and you're making that, that's your gross pay. That's not what you're taking home. After taxes, state income taxes, and then you got to feed yourself, clothes, car payments, house payments, gas bills, water bills, this bill, that bill, insurance bills, blah, 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 blah. You name it, and all of a sudden that really shrinks down. That's why when you get to public speaking, all those other expenses, well, look at director, $269,000 a year, VP, $400K a year. Well, now you can not only is it not an issue, but now you're funding college funds, you're funding your 401k maxed out, you're even maybe opening up a side Fidelity, so now your money is making money. This is where I lived after I got over my fear and phobia of public speaking. And that's why what Warren Buffett says, what's the greatest thing that he did? What is his greatest investment? Getting over his fear of public speaking. The guy knows what he's talking about. He's a multi-billionaire because him as a CEO, billions and billions and billions of dollars. But he would not have been able to start up that company if he was terrified to get up in front of just 3 people to speak. Right? Makes sense? In the end, you don't need to be a speaker. You just have to get over your fear of speaking. You just need to get over the fear. That's it. And it's a small skill set, but it's a big, powerful one. And it isn't just for experts. It's the fastest way to unlock your career growth. So if you're working for a company, working for a corporation, the only way to get up those ranks is to get over your fear of public speaking. Without it, you saw what happens. You stay shrunk. You miss opportunities. And even if you're at an executive level watching this, and trust me, 75% of my clients are VP and above, they are living in misery. They are living they're terrified. What happens if I get laid off my job? How am I ever going to get to another job as a VP or as an SVP or as an EVP? Or how am I going to get to another job as a CEO if I can't even speak? They've somehow managed their way around speaking, delegating. but that's not the way to live. And it won't last. And they know it. And that's why they're coming to me. They come to me to get over the fear because they know they're in a precarious situation that at any minute, if anything happens, and especially in today's world with everything, there's all these mergers and stuff happening, who are they going to keep? They're going to keep the people who are great speakers, right? Who are they get rid of? Well, I've never seen that guy speak before, or he's a terrible speaker, or he doesn't know how to communicate. Well, you got a big bullseye on your back. So a lot of them come to me because they're terrified. They've gotten to this place, and now what happens is they want to look outside. Maybe they know something's happening at their company, but they can't. Why? They're stuck because they're terrified of public speaking. Even an interview panel for these guys are terrifying, right? So basically, you got to get out of this. So no matter whether if you're an individual contributor or a manager, you want to get up to the next level, or you're already at that level and now you're living in misery and you're also living in fear of losing your position, down below, there's going to be links to workshops so that you can take a workshop about public speaking fear and how I help you out. There's all kinds of resources below. So all I want you to do is just take away the number one thing you need to do is get over your fear of public speaking and click on one of the links below in the description. It's going to give you just a ton of information. You can just watch my free class, my speaking class, and learn more about me. You can book a call. There's a lot of resources down there. So I urge you to go down, click on one of those links, and I want you to become a millionaire like I did by getting over my fear of public speaking. And I had it for 18 years, so I know what it's like to live in that fear for all those years and watch people just pass me by. This doesn't have to happen for you anymore. Let's get you up that ladder. And if you're already at the top of the ladder, let's get you out of that position you're in where you're terrified of maybe losing your position. Thank you.